I would imagine that many of you are like me and love food, maybe even watch a cooking channel or two. How many of you watch the cooking shows that are on television every once in a while? Raise your hands. Okay, most of us. Wow. I was on a JetBlue flight coming back from Chicago very late on Friday night, and I think there were 4 or 5 channels available just on that one little set of programs. It's more than about sustenance, right? There's something about the pleasure and enjoyment that come from good food that's prepared with generosity. There's something about the experience of hospitality and community. There's something very special about it. You may not know it from my last name, but I'm actually half Sicilian, half Italian. And there's a special delight, I think, that folks from the Mediterranean region take in food. In fact, the first question often when I come home in the morning and wake up, my mom will ask, "So what do you want for dinner today?" You know, we're thinking ahead. A few weeks ago, I was in Athens, Greece for a conference and had the good fortune of staying with a Greek family from the Mediterranean. And they shared with me the same sentiment. In fact, food was so much a part of who they are and what they are. The weekly trip to the market was like a special event. And the beauty of all those fruits and vegetables, a little bit like at our Syracuse market, was something worth taking pictures of. It was just really something else. When I was growing up, even though my family went through a bit of a tough time, and I know that we were living paycheck to paycheck, I still never knew that I never thought I was going to go hungry, you know? There was one point in time when my dad was unemployed and was getting a food subsidy of these big blocks of cheese and peanut butter, and I thought that was the best thing. You know, even when times were hard, I knew I wasn't going to go hungry. But in reality, if we are paying attention, even in the kind of back of our minds, we know that there are plenty of people who are hungry, actually. 925 million people don't have enough food to eat on a daily basis. I was checking those statistics out yesterday, and last year a census indicates that about 5 million children die of starvation every year. 5 million children. I did the simple math, and that works out to about 13,700 children who will die today because they don't have enough food. 13,700 children. It's staggering when you think about it. Of those 925 million, most of them are actually in Asia and the Pacific, though many are also in Africa. And 19 million are in the developed world. 19 million hidden amongst our well-to-do and developed sort of places to live here in the United States and Europe and other places in the developed world. In World War II, there's a story that goes that during the war, children who were killed, families who lost parents and children were sent to orphanages in London during the time of the bombing. They were so afraid that they would wake up without anything to eat that the people taking care of them gave them a loaf of bread to sleep with so that they would be reassured they wouldn't go hungry the next day. Sleeping with bread is a reassurance that they wouldn't go hungry. You may be wondering, why am I talking about food and about hunger on Corpus Christi, this day when we reflect on the gift and blessing of the Eucharist, the body and blood of Christ? If you recall to the first Eucharist, in a sense, the Last Supper, just before Jesus' death, when Jesus is at table with the disciples and breaks bread and shares the cup, there's one other thing that he does that's very, very important as an example to us. Does anyone recall what that is? Besides the offering of the bread and the cup, and it's detailed especially in John's Gospel. We celebrate it actually on Holy Thursday, just before Easter. What's that one other thing that Jesus shares with us as an example? Come on, now, I know you all know this. Just shout out. washing of the feet. That so linked is this act of remembrance and thanksgiving and of partaking of the bread and the wine, the body and blood of Christ, with this act of service, this act of generous and humble service to our brothers and sisters. When we reflect on the body of Christ, it is not only these elements of the body and blood we receive in Eucharist with such gratitude and thanksgiving for the spiritual nourishment that God provides. It is also meant to be a kind of provocation to us to think broadly about who is included in that body of Christ. That somehow the 925 million people who live very distant from most of us and go hungry are part of that body. And as we know, if a hand or a foot of ours is in pain or broken or in some kind of suffering, the whole body suffers. So it is for us. If we are really paying attention as a body of Christ, as a human family of brothers and sisters, so it is for us that if some go without, we too suffer. We too. And so the question then becomes, what do we do about this? There are complex causes for hunger, as we know, poverty and all kinds of cycles of injustice. It's very simple in some ways. People who don't have enough food are often, it's because they don't have enough land to grow it on or have enough income to pay for it. But then there's more complex causes too. The way that we've started to use food for fuel, for biofuels. The ways that our policies, the ways that our governments interact with each other, and the ways that the rich keep getting richer and the middle class and the poor keep getting poorer, that cycle needs to be reversed. What can we do? We can vote in favor of policies that will be mindful of the hungry and the poor. We can donate. We have wonderful services right here in Syracuse, the Cathedral Emergency Fund, which people donate to every week. There's Unity Kitchen and the Samaritan Center and the Oxford Street Inn. And in fact, if we want to do more than that, we could roll up our sleeves and get involved in the serving of the hungry. When we celebrate Eucharist and receive the body and the blood of Christ, God is expressing to us God's desire to be an intimate part of our lives. But more than that, God is expressing to us an invitation that we become Christ in the world, feeding others spiritually and materially. As a way of closing, Teresa of Avila has a wonderful meditation she shares with us on the body of Christ. She says this, that the body of Christ is us here and now, that Christ has no body but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks upon the world with compassion. Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands with which he extends to others in need and gives blessing. Christ has no hands, no feet, no eyes on earth but yours.